What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise Postgame show presented by Sleeper. Today, the Portland Trail Blazers get a hard-fought loss against the Minnesota Timberwolves, losing 124-121 in a game that was back and forth all game long. The Blazers' offense fades down the stretch. We get to talk about some crunch-time offensive flaws tonight. We get to talk about some good, though. The Blazers were in this game against one of the better teams in the Western Conference, a team that made the Western Conference Finals the past couple of years, but unfortunately, the Blazers still can't find a way to beat Minnesota. It was like that on opening night with the Blazers playing a similar game that was close, and they lost down the stretch, and of course, they had the loss before the All-Star break, third loss of the season to the Timberwolves. This would have been a golden win for the Blazers. This was a golden opportunity to gain ground on the 8th seed as the Golden State Warriors lost to the New Orleans Pelicans tonight. The Blazers still have a good chance at the 8th seed, but man, this win would have been absolutely phenomenal with the Blazers having one of the easiest schedules, actually the easiest schedule the rest of the year, but they can't get it done. We're going to break it all down. Eric, what's going on, man? How are you doing?
What's up? At least the game was entertaining, right?
I guess so.
But man, that would have been a good one to get. They played very well at times in this game. Just couldn't make enough plays down the stretch on either end.
Yeah, they played well at times. At other times, they showed the flaws that continue to kind of plague this team. So, kind of a mixed bag tonight, you know. It wasn't a game that I necessarily expected them to win. I actually took the Timberwolves as the 6.5 points favorite in this one. The Blazers got a couple tough threes late to make this only a 3-point loss, but also at the same time, man, with this team kind of graduating out of tanking territory, it's no longer just, oh, let's be happy that they only lost by 3. When they lose this close, when it's this close of a game, at this point, when you're trying to get the 8th seed, when you're trying to become a legitimate playoff team, it's about, man, what couple of things can they clean up to turn this loss into a win? And we're going to talk about that today. The Blazers without Denny, the Blazers without Sharpe. We're going to talk about another piece of drama with the medical staff and the Blazers injury reporting. Unfortunately, this time it bites Sharpe. And no Robert Williams as well. Would have been nice to have a backup center in this game because the Timberwolves were able to build a lead there in the fourth quarter at the start of the fourth because the Blazers went small without Robert Williams. I mean, Young Hunson wouldn't have been a better option, and he's been down the G League. The Blazers had to go small, and it really backfired. The few minutes they tried to get Clingan some rest. Clingan, after having a good third quarter, gets subbed out of the game. The Timberwolves go on a run. The Blazers fought their way back, clawed their way back, but you can't give up runs to a team like this. They just find ways to win basketball games. That's why they're one of the best teams in the Western Conference. So disappointed with this loss. Not disappointed with the way they necessarily played today outside of the final 3 to 4 minutes. I thought the offense there down the stretch became atrocious. But that's stuff that we've talked about for years under Chauncey Billups, and we've seen at times where the crunch time offense just gets really, really stagnant, especially against elite defenses, and it happened once again today. There was some terrible offensive possessions there down the stretch against this Timberwolves defense. So looking forward to bringing this one down with you guys. If you're just joining the stream, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel. If you're new, we bring post-game streams after every single Blazer game. Win, lose, or tie. If there ever was a tie, we'd still do a post-game stream for it. So, Eric, where do you want to start with this one? Are you like happy with the way they played today, or is it just like, man, this would have been a great win and they squandered it away at home?
I mean, I'm never, when a team's like battling for the playoffs, I'm never happy with moral victories. This was going to be a tough game, fully healthy, let alone without Denny, Rob, Will, and Shaden. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad they were competitive in this game, and it wasn't like the Denver game for sure. But no, I'm never happy with a loss in this situation if we're trying to make a push towards that, towards playoff seeding.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm kind of past the point where I don't expect this team to just be close and be competitive. I expect them to win some basketball games, even against a team like the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves have lost some games this year to some bottom feeders. They are beatable. And there's just, even though they were close, there was so much the Blazers could have cleaned up in this one, especially down the stretch offensively. Still turned over the ball, the defensive boards, not having a backup center. You don't have Denny in this game. Denny obviously would have helped, but there's still so much to improve. They had some guys make some shots. Jaden McDaniels was on fire tonight. Anthony Edwards had an amazing first half, but the Blazers were still in it. So the optimism says, okay, you clean up, you find a way to clean up some of these things that hurt this team down the stretch, and you're able to win some of these basketball games. But at the same time, some of these issues have plagued them throughout the season, and I think the main thing was just the way their offense couldn't get anything going the last 3 to 4 minutes of this game. They had some awful possessions. I don't know what Jeremy Grant was doing. You had a fadeaway 15-footer from Grant. Just a disgusting shot. He made some really bad decisions in this game. It looked like last year's Jeremy Grant. He got to the line a lot. It kind of saved his game. But down the stretch, you have a 15-foot fadeaway from him. You got Drew Holiday shooting a 15-foot fadeaway. That's almost an air ball. You got Jeremy Grant turning the ball over. You just got to get better possessions offensively in crunch time. And I wasn't surprised to see them struggle. This has kind of been the theme for the past few years, and even the theme this year under Tiago, where the Blazers' offense in crunch time against good defenses, the ball gets stuck and nobody's moving. And the refs will swallow their whistle a little bit more close in a late in a close game. They won't call as much, and Minnesota definitely got a little bit more physical there down the stretch. The Blazers were struggling to turn the corner off the drive. And then, you just got to get better shots. Tamani Kamara was cold all night, and he's shooting a crossover pull-up 3 that's contested early in a clock. Like, they just had some really, really kind of boneheaded offensive possessions where they settled for really, really bad shots when they didn't need to. After, a lot of these possessions, nothing was happening anyway. Got to find ways to get some movement, get some motion there down the stretch. But the offense was just very, very disappointing down the stretch, and I think it's the reason they lost this game.
Yeah, man, I was sitting there thinking, we need a different lineup, and where's Clingan? This is about 9 minutes left in the fourth or so. And we actually had a stretch where Anthony Edwards missed 9 straight shots. So we had the opportunity to win this game. But then instead of Clingan coming in, he subs in Jeremy and Drew and takes Scoot out. And then Jeremy proceeds 21 seconds after getting subbed in to turn the ball over. And then next possession, he takes that horrible 15-foot fadeaway shot that you were mentioning. And man, just actually, I think Drew missed a shot in between there, and then Jeremy missed one. I don't know. But that was. Then we just went ice cold, and like you mentioned, we weren't turning the corner. We weren't running anything, and this is where you have to have some sort of offense when the defense tightens up and pressures you. And it can't just be reliant on a Chris Murray or a Donovan Clingan offensive rebound or some sort of hustle play. That's not an offense. And far too often this season it's relied on that. And then you look at the turnovers and you could say only 16, right? That's good for the Blazers, but that's still way too many.
That's still, if they average that still would put them amongst the worst teams in the league at taking care of them.
Right. But for them lately, that 16 is a low number. Yeah. But it's just, man, some of the turnovers they had tonight were just back-breaking, led to wide open lay-ins. Yeah. And then there was a missed shot we don't get back, and Jaden McDaniels is bouncing the ball to dunk it because no one's back on defense.
Oh, that was
Um,
another bad Jeremy play, the play that led to that I didn't even mention in this sequence of really bad offense, where Jeremy just goes to the rim, flails, throws something at the backboard, and
mhm.
falls down. Like, maybe I'm mixing up plays, but there's a play like that from Jeremy as well. Just the offense, the bad offensive possessions led to runouts for them. I thought the Blazers did a decent job defensively there in the second half. But, I mean, your defense doesn't matter if there's nobody back because you're turning the ball over.
And there were two plays in the first half where two Timberwolves went to the basket and like all five of our players were standing up top on the perimeter and somehow no one went with the two
Yeah.
cutters and they could just pick which one to pass to for a dunk. Like how do you mess up that bad? But um transition defense is something that plagued us in previous seasons with the turnovers, but this game it really stood out. It hadn't been as much of an issue this season, but they got so many easy baskets just by getting a steal and running out, or getting an offensive or getting a defensive rebound and pushing the pace, and us not finding a way to get matched up, and that really hurts in a close game to give up so many easy buckets when we're struggling to even get a decent look at times on our end.
Yeah, so do you think the offense down the stretch was just, they lack structure and the ball gets stuck in their motion offense? How much of it do you think was that? How much of it do you think is just players got to make better decisions? Some of the shots that they ended up taking were just very questionable decisions. So, how much of the blame do you put on the offense just not generating better shots, and how much of it do you just put on some of the decision making and players maybe hanging on to the ball a little bit too long and not cutting when they should, etc.?
Well, to me, it's just I've watched this offense far too long to think that it's not just our offense. Like it's predicated on players getting turning the corner and getting downhill and getting paint touches. And Minnesota is pretty good. They have several defenders that can keep you in front, including their best player, including Jaden McDaniels, who had a monster game. Dante DiVincenzo is a decent defensive player. Like they have guys who can just prevent you from getting those paint touches. And I thought they did a pretty good job of that. And we had like no counter really to it. And that's been both of our issues with this offense is, down the stretch, 4 minutes to go, you need a bucket. We're just sitting there ISOing players that aren't necessarily good enough anymore. I mean, like maybe Drew and Jeremy were those guys a few years ago, but like you can't consistently rely on them to beat a team like Minnesota off the dribble. And man, it's tough. And then Scoot had some really good moments in this game, but he
Second half was rough.
as the game went on, he was just having a tough time also getting in the paint, and they were defending him tough, and we weren't really doing anything to minimize that. Other than there was one possession where he cut back door. I think it was Tease found him on a nice
Yep.
backdoor pass. Like that's how you counter like overplaying on the perimeter. That's how like we got beat a lot earlier in the season when we were overplaying, and but it's frustrating when you see success with cutters, and a backdoor cut like that, and then you don't really see many people cutting after that. But like that's the key to beating that perimeter pressure, and I just don't feel like there's enough structure or enough. Like I feel like the players they feel like they have to try and get a bucket or something, and it's one thing if you have Denny or maybe even Sharpe in that situation. But when you're missing both of those guys, and you're playing a Sissoko fourth quarter minutes, you're playing Chris Murray, those kind of guys, and I'm not saying those guys played bad or anything, but like they're not the type that can get you buckets. So if you're relying on on Drew and Jeremy to do that as well. It's a recipe for having to make tough shots, and the Blazers are not good enough shooters, in my opinion, to counteract defensive pressure by just playing one-on-one and not really running any sets.
Yeah, I also thought Minnesota did a good job there down the stretch of breaking down the Blazers' defense and generating some wide open threes. Jaden McDaniels hits a three, comes back down next possession, gets a completely wide open three. Dante DiVincenzo got a wide open three. There was just a couple possessions there in the fourth quarter where Minnesota was getting into the paint and drawing a help defender, and there was no rotations. One of them was off a corner. It was the only player on one side of the floor, and I think it was Clingan guarding a corner shooter, and Clingan helps all the way into the paint. And it's just like you have nobody on that side of the floor to rotate out to the corner, so it's going to be wide open. So there's some times where they were helping when they shouldn't have. Normally you want to help from the side of the floor that has two players on it so you can leave one to take the first pass out. When you help off the corner shooter and there's nobody on that side of the floor, you have no rotations. It's too far of a rotation to cover that. So just some defensive breakdowns, and I thought the Blazers played a solid defensive game, but still some things to ultimately clean up a little bit there. But, Anthony Edwards made some shots in the first half. Like, given where the defense was first game after the All-Star break against Denver, I know they gave up 124 points, would like to not give up that many points, but I don't think it was a bad defensive game. That's not really where my issues are. My issues are with, the offense down the stretch. They scored 121 points against this Minnesota Timberwolves defense. Without Denny, without Sharpe, that is impressive. We're talking about a team that scored 103 against Denver and then only 92 against Phoenix, even though they won by 15 because they won with a final score that looked like it was straight out of the 1980s. But, good offensive game, made some shots in this game. Blazers end up shooting 40% from three. They shoot 47% from two. There was some really good moments where they were able to attack and the ball was moving, but it's just far too often where we see them have a good offensive game and they're in a game against a good team with a good defense, and then that completely goes away in the final 4 to 5 minutes. I've seen that story so many times from the Portland Trail Blazers the past few years, and it gets really frustrating. It's like when there's 4 to 5 minutes remaining in a game against a team like this, I'm like excited because, we get a good finish. We get some good crunch time basketball against a good team that we were underdogs against. But then part of me is like, I know how this goes. We're going to have some awful offensive possessions. And it's just almost an expectation at this point that the offense is just going to really struggle to generate looks there in the final 4 to 5 minutes of games. And it's a pattern that's too much of a pattern to ignore. So I think that goes to the lack of structure. I think that goes to the lack of playmakers. Scoot is a playmaker, but he was not able to turn the corner there. I do agree with playing him at the end of this game. You needed that extra ball handling, needed that extra creation, but unfortunately he just wasn't able to get that. He wasn't able to turn the corner against DiVincenzo. There were so many times he tried to make a move and got walled off. I mean, even the spin move against Bones Highland that he got fouled on, he didn't beat him off the dribble at all. He didn't even get a step where he could use his strength because Bones Highland is pretty bony. Just the whole second half, he was really struggling to turn the corner, unfortunately. And, Drew is kind of like the one creator, but he's methodical as well. He's not going to blow by anybody. So, the result is you don't really have anybody that you can trust to create that can actually get a step on their defender, and you're still able to make some shots and get some offensive boards, get some putbacks. Like, they generated offense throughout this entire game. 16 offensive rebounds is phenomenal. They get to the line 30 times, so they were physical when they drove. They weren't getting a step on anybody, but they weren't afraid to use their body. Jeremy Grant, 15 free throw attempts. He was doing his best Danny Avdia impersonation tonight, which was good because he was 3 for 11 from the field otherwise. But it's just tough when your offense is so reliant upon guys being able to turn the corner on a drive and draw that help side guy and then spark movement off that. If somebody drives and everybody's watching, they're supposed to be cutters. And when you can't regularly get that step on on the on-ball defender, there's just times where this offense really struggles to generate anything, and this is where they need more stuff to fall back to, whether it's sets, whether it's putting more into their motion offense where, all right, ball's up top, we need to do more off the ball to try and generate an advantage, to try and generate a driving lane. I mean, it can even be as something as throw the ball into Clingan in the post and let him post up and let him be a decision maker, run some split action above him. Like, there's just not enough off the ball. That's why they're so reliant upon turning the corner on their drives, that when they get stonewalled like Minnesota did in those final minutes, that's where you end up with, oh, Drew Holiday can't beat his guy off the dribble? Okay, it's a mid-range jumper falling away that barely hits iron. Oh, Jeremy Grant can't beat anybody off the dribble? Oh, he's shooting a fadeaway. Oh, Jeremy Grant has to try way too hard to beat somebody off the dribble. Now he's out of control and kind of flailing at the rim. So this is just something that can be remedied a bit by having more off-ball action, but the Blazers' offense doesn't do a good enough job of generating these advantages for players. It's too reliant upon players doing it themselves off the dribble, or, they run pick and roll, which that's the design of a pick and roll. You're screening the guys so you can get an advantage, but that's just the issue in crunch time against a team like this, just the lack of advantages players have, the lack of driving lanes, the lack of opportunities to get to the rim or opportunities to collapse the defense and kick to a shooter. And it was very, very apparent there in the final minutes of this game.
Now, you can get lucky and make tough shots. That's certainly possible. But everything the Blazers do on offense is tougher in the playoffs and when teams are allowed to be physical. We know there hasn't really been a lot of teams. I mean, you could maybe argue Golden State was fast-paced or whatever, but for the most part, pace is something that slows down in the playoffs or against tougher defenses. They find ways to slow you down and not let you get baskets. Also, shooting threes is tougher as the games get more meaningful and more pressure at the end of the game in a fourth quarter situation. Now, when you're down 10 and you hit a bunch of threes because there's no pressure, then the pressure is back off. That's different. But shooting 3-pointers becomes more difficult in a play-in type atmosphere or a playoff atmosphere where the pressure is on with every shot and all that kind of stuff. And then you add to that, like I said, in the playoffs, teams are allowed to be a little bit more physical, especially if you play a team with a reputation for being physical in the playoffs, like we might have to do if we got the 8th seed. And so what happens is it makes it almost impossible to drive it at some points because the team's just allowed to body you and hold you, and they're not going to call it every time. And you have to be able to have some sort of counter to those 3 things. Those can't be the only 3 things that you predicate your offense on. You cannot just rely on 3-point shooting, getting in the paint, and pushing the pace. And that's seems to be Portland's principles this year on offense. And it's fine for a while in the regular season while you're still growing or whatever. But if this team is ever to take that jump to the next level, you have to at least know how to play when those things aren't easily available and working. And it feels like a lot of these games where Portland's playing a tough team and it seems like they're playing them tough, it seems like it goes downhill pretty fast when the other team just calls a timeout and ratchets up the pressure a little bit, and we don't really have anything to counteract that with.
Yeah, 1,000%. As we take a look at the team stats here, the shooting splits are not pretty defensively, I guess. 53% for the field, 49% from 3. I think this was an okay defensive game. I don't think you can just look at percentages necessarily and base the defense off that. Sometimes teams make tough shots. I don't like that as an excuse for everything. Like some coaches have have used very often, but you know, you got Anthony Edwards on the other side of the ball. That dude's a superstar. He was doing superstar things in that first half. 62 points for the Timberwolves in both these halves. Still some work to be done. I wish Tomani would have more of an impact defensively. It just feels like he hasn't had the same impact this year, man. He's not really able to slow down stars this year like he was able to last year. So I also thought the way he like half flopped on a Gobert screen in crunch time pissed me off as well.
Well, yeah, that play was frustrating for multiple reasons, and the other is that, you know, he just takes himself out of the play completely, you know, and that's when, you know, you're not going to get that call very often in that situation at the end of a game. Like
it's like he knew it, but his instincts were to like kind of flail a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
But he didn't even sell it. Like he just.
Yeah. If he fights through the contact, he probably gets up. But this is where the drop, the deep drop comes into play. Donovan wasn't there on the other end, and he fades back into the paint, and we just let Anthony Edwards have a wide open shot, and he was struggling. That was he rims that one in. It you know, it could have easily missed, but he had some. It got some like nice spin off the double bounce off the rim and went off the backboard and went back in, but you know, if you make that shot a little tougher and he misses that, like that's 10 in a row he's missed at the time, and we maybe win this game because he then made several plays after that. But like I don't understand why we're just dying on a screen and then giving up, just not even gonna try to bother coming out and trying to stop that 3-point shot.
Yeah, I mean, one of the problems with the Blazers not running drop is they don't do a good enough job rebounding. Unless it's Donovan Clingan taking a ton of the defensive attention on the boards. Like, he will have multiple guys box him out because he's such an offensive or he's such an overall rebounding threat. So on the defensive glass, when you have Clingan in the paint, the Blazers are able to rebound a bit better. But with him playing high on screens, if he's not able to get back in front of the opposing center, the rest of the team does not do a good enough job boxing out, being physical on the boards. And I don't trust anybody to come over and box out Gobert rolling to the rim if Clingan contests an Edwards three to be able to get a rebound. I mean, we saw the way this team rebounded without Clingan in the game. They couldn't grab a freaking board there at the start of the fourth quarter. Even when they got hands on it, like they just were not going and grabbing the ball. It was very frustrating. It's something that this team, we talk about how they need to add more shooting. They also just need to add a couple of guys that can grab freaking rebounds, because Jeremy Grant has his struggles. And honestly, it's like Sissoko, Chris Murray. We got a lot of guys that can grab offensive boards. Chris Murray can grab offensive boards, but on the defensive boards, are those guys good for their position? I don't think so. I don't really think there's anybody across the board that are good rebounders for their position, except for maybe Denny Avdia. You know, but what position even is he? You know, he's point guard for a while, and he's power forward, small forward. Like, he's kind of positionless. He's a solid rebounder, but not enough other guys can do a good enough job of coming in and cleaning up the boards and competing against centers. And that's why the Blazers really struggle to go small, is the rebounding, because they were getting stops there when they had that small ball lineup at the start of that stretch where they were running it. But it didn't matter, because if you can't get a defensive board, it doesn't matter how many times you force them to miss. If they keep rebounding their own miss, it doesn't freaking matter. So something with roster construction going forward is to try and find more guys that can grab defensive boards. I almost wonder if that's why they play such a deep drop with Donovan, where it's like, okay, yeah, we might give up a couple makes, but hopefully we can grab defensive boards if they miss. So yeah, that was really frustrating, and I don't expect that to get better until they get a couple of guys that just know how to go grab some freaking rebounds. This is where Josh Hart would be great for this team, but we don't got rebounders like that, so.
Yeah, maybe someday, Tori.
But
I
yeah,
mean,
go ahead.
at least they addressed the shooting with one shooter, who hasn't really gotten too much of a chance to get shooting off because we don't run any
He has to take some
threes.
tough ass threes. I know people are looking at the percentages like he's not shooting good enough percentage with us. One, small sample size. Two, like, dude, almost all his shots are extremely, extremely difficult.
Yeah,
Um,
but I mean, we addressed that finally. I mean, I don't think it's enough still, but I mean, defensive rebounding was a huge problem in previous years too, and it's also something we didn't really do much to address. So, um, yeah, I don't know. It's it's hard for me to have faith that we're going to like fully address some of these issues in any off season, but hopefully, uh, we're not talking about these same things next year.
I know, yeah. Just the offense, the way it fades down the stretch, the rebounding. It's the rebounding isn't really a coaching thing. That's more of a roster thing to me. The offense
Mm.
down the stretch is definitely a coaching thing that needs to be improved going into next year.
At the same time, next year we'll have Dame, Denny, Shea, maybe you know,
Yeah,
it
you'll have
it
more of these
naturally gets
advantage
better
creators.
because you have guys who can play hero ball if you need them to, but
Yeah.
they
But we
don't
saw
have
it
the
even
roster
with
for it right
Dame.
now.
Even before we traded Dame, there were still these stretches down the stretch where we wouldn't have a field goal for 5 minutes.
Yeah, for
And it
sure.
was like basically Dame, please save us, and he's just seeing multiple defenders and nobody else is able to do anything. Like, maybe you have a better combination next year, but Dame's older. Like, it shouldn't, even with more talent, they still need to run a little better offense down the stretch. They need to run a little bit more structure. Like, that's the theme offensively from this season. You have Denny Avdia playing like an all-star. Drew has played pretty decent offensively outside of the turnovers. He's made shots. He's been a legitimate scorer and playmaker. Sharpe took a little bit of a scoring leap. You have guys that can score the ball, but they were the 22nd ranked offense coming into tonight's game. He's still a bottom 10 offense. And part of that is you can't make threes, but I do think part of that is you get a little too stagnant. You have some athletes. You should be able to run a little bit more. They don't do a good enough job of that. But then if you ran a motion offense in the half court, a better motion offense in the half court, where you actually have more off ball action, made it easier on some of these guys, I feel like they would be a little bit better offensively at least, and at least you wouldn't see as many of these lulls that we've seen at times this year.
And even if like all those guys I mentioned are playing at their peak next year, which is debatable, but let's just say they were, I think you still can benefit by running a little bit of structure at times just to take some of the pressure off them having to do it
Yeah,
time after time again.
I'm tired of saying this team needs more offensive structure. They need more off-ball actions. I feel like the entire history of this channel, that's been a theme of the majority of our post-game shows, is like it just stuff gets too stagnant. Stuff they don't move well enough. I'm tired of having this conversation. I don't know if people are tired of hearing this conversation, but trust me, I am tired of saying the same thing constantly with this team. Got to figure out a way to improve. So we'll see new owner, maybe new coaching staff, maybe new front office. Who knows how much turnover there is when Tom Dundon steps in. But it's always been a thing to kind of watch. And it's, you got more offensive talent on the way next year. But, we'll see how that looks if the offense is the same. Other team
I mean,
stats. Sorry, go ahead.
real quick, just to that point, like how many years have we been talking about Portland being one of the bottom teams in assists in the NBA?
What
It's
are
like,
they this year?
I think
In
they're
assist
they're
percentage?
in the bottom five. Not an assist
I don't.
percentage, just
Well,
assist per game.
assist per game
I don't know
is
what assist.
assist per
Yeah,
game is based on how many shots you make too. Assist percentage is
yeah.
the more like flawless stat to look at, especially with a team that doesn't shoot the ball well. So here I'll find it. Assist percentage. The Blazers are 22nd in assist percentage, so at least they're not bottom five, but they're still, almost 40% of their shots are unassisted. Now some of those are like putbacks, right?
Mhm.
They get a lot of offensive boards, so it's not necessarily truly indicative of how well you move the ball or how well you play make for others, but still, I mean, you have. Let me look at like offensive rebounds. Portland's the second best offensive rebounding team. Houston is better by far. Houston is like historic offensive rebounding team, and they play a lot of iso ball. They're the 29th team in assist percentage. So yeah, there's probably some correlation there, but just gotta move the ball better. Shout out to Helicon, member for 6 months, says thank you guys for 5 years of awesome Blazers coverage. Hasn't it been 7? I don't know. We're losing track of. Yeah, it's been almost 7. Started the channel May 30th, 2019. May 30th, 2019. But appreciate you, Helicon. He says, thank you guys for 5 years of awesome Blazers coverage. Chat, support your local content creators if you can. Membership is cheap and 82 games is work. It is some work, man. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, during second half of games, I'm prepping the stream. Like, trying to watch games, trying to tweet my grievances with the way they're playing, and then trying to prep the stream. So I appreciate the support. And you're gonna say something?
No, I'm just going back through. So there was one season under Chauncey where we were 22nd in assists. I know
percentage?
you like to use no, not assist percentage, just assist. I was looking at assist.
Well, that's pace and shot making.
But
will play factor in that.
We're going through several offenses, two different coaches, well, 3 now. All of which says the ball movement needs to be better. I understand it's just a basic stat. So, hey, 20th, 2015, 2016, we were 20th. There we go. I was trying to find like when the last time we weren't.
And we had some top offenses, so it wasn't due to us not making shots, but also we played a super slow pace. Shout out to Chapel Perilous. He heard what Helicon said, and he gifted some memberships. 5 gifted memberships to the Saddest Nation, Real Twizzy, We Off That, One of God Kings, and Mike Boy. Shout out to Chapel with the gifted memberships. We scored 24 points off turnovers. And they only scored 16.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Was it the Timberwolves game? The game where the opposing team had 43 points off turnovers and it was a season high for any team? Was that the Timberwolves game or was that a different game?
I don't remember what game that was.
Yeah, I think it might have been the Timberwolves game before the All-Star break. But so you win that battle today. You shoot 11 more free throws. You get 3 more offensive rebounds. You foul 8 times less. Like, literally all those things that I used to look at a lot just for if this team was kind of controlling the little things. They won those areas, but you give up 53% from the field, 49% from 3. This was a shootout. They made a lot of shots. The Blazers didn't make shots down the stretch. That was the difference.
Did the Blazers use a challenge early in this game? Or did they use a challenge?
I don't remember.
Because I don't know why they didn't challenge that one where CD Sissoko got ran over and he got called for the foul.
Chet says no. Yeah, that was right in front of the Blazers bench too.
I was like, did I miss them challenging something during a timeout that the broadcast didn't say or something? Because that would seem pretty obvious. He was just standing there and got trucked. I don't know, man.
Yeah. That was right in front of the bench. I mean, something as egregious as that should have just been an instant challenge. You shouldn't need to look to the bench and say, hey, do you have a replay angle? Like, it happened right in front of you.
Nina said City grabbed him. I didn't see City grab him, but...
Yeah, I don't know. Couldn't really... I didn't see that from the angle that we had on national television. So maybe it did. Maybe that's why they didn't challenge. I don't know. Alrighty. You ready to talk about players? I don't have a fancy graphic, but we can.
Yeah, real quick, just for the Timberwolves, man, Jaden McDaniels was phenomenal. That guy's good.
Yeah.
Just
He's the type
throwing
of
up.
guy who's always much better offensively against us.
Yeah. Well, Solar Money, what's up, man? He says Jay McDaniels has shot 77% from three on 25 makes against the Blazers
Yep.
this year.
Told you.
That's insane.
Yep. Yep. Feels even worse than that. Like, this dude torches us. He's a Blazer killer. There's always these players that just torch the Blazers, and he's one of them. I mean, we let role players go off from three in ways that other teams don't. Like, why is that? But because it's not even necessarily the same position. Like, Brook Lopez cooks us from three, has a career high. Jane McDaniels is just Steph Curry from three against us. It feels, of course, there's always going to be role players that have good shooting games against someone, but to me, it feels like it's a little bit more often against the Blazers, and I'm not really sure as to why.
Well, I mean, the broadcast did mention this. Tori, I don't know if you know this, but he is from Washington, so maybe
He
it's
is
just
from Washington.
a little
Federal
bit
way.
of just this is the closest arena currently to his hometown, and probably has family here. So
Yeah. Jared Allen. Well, Jared Allen wasn't shooting threes, but that was fluky. There's just always these role players though that just torch us and have career games against us, and it gets a little frustrating. Or it's like Jokic in the first quarter has 21 points. It just feels like, I don't really know how to say this. It's almost like they like don't account for a player. They just like randomly forget about a player until that player torches them. Like, it happened with Jared Allen. It happened with Brook Lopez. Shoot, it happened with freaking Jokic in that Denver game. It's like, oh, we can switch smalls onto him, and oh, we don't know if we want to switch. Okay, don't guard him. Just let him shoot wide open jumpers. That gets frustrating. Like, the way they forget about certain players, even as those players are torching them, they continue to just forget about them. I don't know. Anyway.
they only do like a game plan for 4 players to save time.
Well, yeah, I mean, we have this game plan, so it's like, okay, Josh Hart's shooting 40% from three. Oh, Clingan, you guard him and just let him shoot. And then he makes a three. It's like, oh,
We
yeah.
don't believe that.
Yeah, he's 40%. And it's not like it's not like it was a small sample size. He's been playing pretty much all season, so don't really know what you expect. But there's just always something defensively after games where it's like, yeah, probably should have been able to do a better job on this guy or that guy, and maybe it would have made the difference in a game. And Jane McDaniels was one of those guys. I mean, we had Drew switched onto him. He just backs him down and hits a Dirk fade. There was like no help. And Drew played good defense. He didn't let him get to the rim. But when you're 6'10" going up against somebody that's 6'4" and you can get the ball within 15 feet, that's a practice shot. That's might look like a tough shot, but for these guys, that's easy. That's easy money because you know Drew Holiday's not going to block it. You can just set up that shot. And if there's no help, you could take your time just setting up that shot, getting on balance, and hitting it. So, yeah, it's.
But why is he the guy because Tamani's guarding Anthony Edwards. So why is our point guards often guarding him instead of one of their other?
Why can't Drew guard Anthony Edwards? Isn't Drew supposed to be an elite defender?
I mean, he did that one time and got the over and back. That was nice, but
yeah, like this is what I don't understand. It's like you're switching into the. Tumani can't slow down Anthony Edwards. I mean, I guess maybe he did in the second half, but Anthony Edwards torched him on opening night. He torched him in the first half. Let Drew get some of these guard matchups. It's like there's times Drew's in the game and Jeremy will guard the number one guard option. There's, a lot of times it's Tamani, and it's frustrating to me. It's like we want Tamani pressuring the guard in the backcourt, so we're going to put Drew on a forward. like, just match up across the board. That's why you have multiple good defenders, so you can you don't have to get cross-matched because you're trying to put, your Al-Farouq Aminu on their opposing point guard, and now you got to put one as CJ or Dame on the opposing small forward. You have solid defenders across the board. You can match up size-wise. You can put Drew on Anthony Edwards and put Tamani on a Jaden McDaniels, and just tell Tamani, like, you gotta be aware. You can't overhelp, but that's kind of been an issue with Tamani this year, is the overhelp. So maybe it would have been the same result. It's just funny how we trade for Drew Holiday, making the amount of money he is, and the biggest reason I think is his defense. And I don't think we put him on opposing star guards enough. Drew has always been up to the challenge in that regard, and I almost wonder if maybe he's not having as good of a season defensively because we're not challenging him with these star guards. Like, we're putting him on forwards.
Yeah, it's probably more likely that he's just getting to be a step or two slower than he used to be and can't quite keep up at his age.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's moments where he looks decently quick defensively. I mean, Tamani gets beat off the dribble a ton. It's... I don't know. Anyway.
He seems to slow down a lot, though, because, like, the Celtics offense was pretty fast-paced, too, and there was a lot of movement, and he was... I don't know. I don't feel like he slowed the ball down as much as he's been doing on offense, and I know that's not defense, but I got to think that maybe it's just he's just slowing down a little bit overall.
Maybe. I mean, that's the first player we're going to talk about because he was the leading scorer for the Blazers today. Let me pull up the box score here. 22 points for Drew. 9 for 16, 2 for 4 from 3, 2 for 2 from the free throw line, 4 assists, 5 turnovers. Continues to be a disaster with his turnovers, but I think the way that he's struggling with his turnovers right now is one of the indicators that it's not just a player thing, that the system is not making it easy to take care of the ball, or, players are getting stuck. Especially when they drive and then try and kick the ball out. Drew had one of those turnovers today. Scoot threw it. Scoot had another. Like, these two plays, let me know if you remember both these plays. So the one where Drew drove and then kicked it out to the wing and there was nobody there, threw it out of bounds, and he drove left, got stuck on the block. Scoot had a similar play where he drives left against Jaden McDaniels, gets stuck on the block, and then tries to kick it out to Tamani and throws it off the backside of a Timberwolves defender. It goes out of bounds. Luckily, it was still Blazers ball. And it was literally like the same exact play where a guard gets stuck and has no options. I
do remember that play.
Some of it's him. Some of it is he just needs to be sharper, but I don't know, man. A veteran struggling like this lately. Go ahead.
He does lose the ball to the guy standing right in front of him a lot, just like unforced error, just dropping it, like losing it.
Yeah,
right
some of it's definitely him, but also I think, he doesn't turn over the ball like this. He hasn't throughout his career, so I struggle to believe that it's, 100% like he's just all of a sudden can't dribble and all of a sudden just throws awful passes all the time. Like, it seems like an issue across the board right now. The lack of structure and honestly, like, the lack of defined roles offensively too. That's really kind of the main thing. Basically, it's like all 5 guys can shoot, all 5 guys can drive, and if we're ISOing Chris Murray, we're ISOing Chris Murray. If Tamani Kamara is shooting crossover pull-up threes, he's shooting crossover pull-up threes. We're gonna ISO Tamani against Gobert, and that was like one of our final field goals of the game. That happened to work, but it's just like it's completely random, and I know they want their offense to be random, but it feels like there isn't defined roles offensively. Like, imagine if they were running this system with the 2019 Blazers and you just had Aminu and Harkless ISOing all the time. instead of Dame and CJ being responsible for things. Like, I almost feel like it's too random and there isn't enough like role definition where players know like what is expected of them. Given the fact that you'll just see the most random guys try and isolate and create one-on-one off the dribble and nobody's moving. So I do think there could be better defined roles, but the offense that they run doesn't really involve defined roles.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of does, but they're kind of miscast in those rules, in my opinion. So, um, man, the problem is I feel like we have like a bunch of guys who would thrive in a more movement based cutting offense, or like someone like City Sissoko and Tamani's this way. Denny when he's in there. Chris Murray's fine at this. I feel like we have a lot of guys who can set decent enough off-ball screens, and that doesn't seem to be a product of our system either.
Yeah, absolutely. But despite the turnovers, Drew was a huge reason why the Blazers were in this game. He hit so many tough shots in this game. The second half especially was really impressive as a scorer, and this team needs somebody to score. I think Drew Holiday gets too much hate, man. Like outside the turnovers, he had a really good game today. Had some nice feeds, like 4 assists, 5 turnovers. I don't like a negative assist to turnover ratio. But he scored the ball very efficiently today. Hit some tough shots. And I just see a lot of people on Twitter that just, even in our chat before the stream, like, just completely hating on him. And it's like, without him, we lose this game by 15 plus. I don't really understand why people are so against Drew Holiday. He was huge for us in the second half.
Yeah, definitely had some good moments in this game. I think it's just the turnovers and it's all the people, Tori, that said that we were turning the ball over a lot and couldn't run our offense well because he was out, and now that he's back in, they can't really explain why it hasn't been better.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say this. If you have an issue with this turnovers, valid, fine, but I don't really understand how you can basically act like he's complete trash as a player just because of his turnovers when he's doing other good things. But then get mad at me for criticizing Sharpe having a negative assist turnover ratio. Like, that's the people where those people are the ones that drive me crazy. It's like, okay, yeah, but both of these, like, Drew has a greater than 2 to 1 assist to turnover ratio. It's been an issue lately, but he is a really good playmaker. I just feel like some of it's not exactly consistent, and I know Sharpe's younger, Drew's older, so you have a higher expectation for Drew, but, like, Drew's assist to turnover ratio is almost 3 times better. And some of these people, like, he's complete trash, shouldn't be on the team, like, would trade him for nothing, like, he doesn't help the team at all, and then there's people that say, will try to tell me Sharpe's a star already. Like, I just don't really understand the lack of consistency in regards to some of the criticism over the turnovers that some people have. Just kind of drives me crazy. So,
well, my opinion, that comes down to Sharpe is a shooting guard who we were hoping would take the jump playmaking and point guard skill-wise. That's one of his biggest areas. He could have taken a jump into, like, close to star level player, but I think a lot of the thing is, like, Holiday is supposed to be the steady guy who doesn't turn the ball over, and the fact that he's just been so careless with the ball at times lately, I think that's frustrating to people. But I mean,
yeah, that part for sure. No, that part for sure. But, like, You gotta also give him credit for scoring the ball well. In a game like this, both could be true. He needs to get better care of the ball, but he gave them an offensive shot in the arm because he made a lot of shots, tough shots too, on possessions where they didn't have anything going. That's why they stayed in this game in the third quarter. That's why they had a lead at one point in the second half, was because Drew Holiday was making shots. Drew Holiday was creating, and nobody else out there was really creating. So yeah. Anyway, Jeremy Grant today. Did he have an efficient game? He had 21 points, was 3 for 12 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, 13 for 15 from the free throw line. What's the true shooting percentage on that? Had 5 boards, 2 assists, 3 turnovers. This might be the worst 21-plus point game anybody's had all season. I thought he was awful tonight.
Man, that 21 points on 12 shots, though. That's crazy.
Yeah, 15 free throw attempts, though, to get there. That's the issue. It's like, getting to the free throw line's good, but, how many of those would-be shots turned into free throws to get him there, If he wasn't getting to the line, like, not making shots from the field, got bailed out. Like, that he was aggressive, but, dude, some of the shot selection decision-making was terrible in this game.
Yeah, he just forced too many tonight. 1 for 7 from 2 is just not going to cut it. Unfortunately, we needed him to step up today. But
yeah,
I mean, like, I don't know. It is efficient. If we would say this is an efficient Denny game. So
I don't know. Well, it depends on what the true shooting percentage says. If it's above 60%, it's an efficient game. It's an efficient game. Somebody get the... Trevin's not in here. Do we have any mods in here? Do we need new mods? Oh, Trevin was in here earlier. True shooting percentage calculator. Just because I'm very, very curious about if this was an efficient game according to the true shooting percentage calculator. True shooting percentage of 56.45%. I think that's a tick below average. So I don't know if it was an efficient game. What's the league average true shooting percentage?
I don't know what it is right now.
But, like, he was terrible to me just because of the decision making. Like, he should have had those 15 free throws, but then not have been 3 for 12. Like, he probably shouldn't have shot that much because he took some bad shots, out of control shots. So, yeah, made up for it with the free throws, but, like, 3 turnovers as well. He's not really a passer. Like, he's not somebody like Drew who's in charge of creating a lot for others. That's the thing with, like, the whole Drew debate is, like, there's 2 sides to the coin. There's one, like, he's supposed to be the steady point guard, supposed to create and take care of the ball. But then also the other side of the coin is, like, he has to create a lot in this offense and the way it's structured, and it puts him in some tough spots that leads to these turnovers. So maybe it's a little bit more excusable than somebody that doesn't pass, doesn't create for others, kind of just creates their own. Like, they should maybe be a little less turnover prone, given their role. So, it's I don't know. It's not a good game. I didn't like some of his decision making today. Next player, let me go back to the box score. Chris Murray, 16 points. He had 14 in the first half. I was furious on Twitter about the decision to start Chris Murray instead of Scoot Henderson. And then Chris Murray had his best half of his career. So I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that is the jinx in full effect. Finished 16 points, 7 for 10 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3. He made a couple threes today. Maybe he was working on his threes when he couldn't walk because of his back. I don't know how. What'd you think?
I mean, they didn't seem like great shots, but they went in. No, I thought he had some really good moments in this game. He had a couple Chris Murray moments as well, but overall, it's hard to argue with his productivity today, and had a huge offensive rebound put back in the fourth quarter. I thought Chris was a pleasant surprise in this game.
Yeah. Do you like the decision to start him over Scoot?
Oh hell no! I said that last game. I feel like with the players we have out, Scoot needs to be in there, and the only thing I can think of is that they think they need someone on the bench lineup to do that, but just stagger people, and
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's just apparently his minutes restrictions off, so that's not it either. So I would I question what we're doing by not just starting Scoot right now when if our offense is dedicated on those paint touches, we need to have a guy who is probably the best at doing that right now with what we have. So
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to me.
Doesn't make sense to me either. And Scoot, 5 assists, 2 turnovers. But, like, I don't want Scoot playing with City Sissoko and Matisse Thybulle and Chris Murray lineups or whatever the hell. Like, I want him playing with Clingan. He had a really nice lob to Clingan in this game. Like, they should be running a lot of pick and roll with him and Clingan. And, dude, it's just like, is he ever going to start? How many players need to get hurt for him to start? That's what this just feels like to me. Like, if you don't have Denny and Sharpe, and those are your 2 top scorers, your best playmaker, your offense is reliant upon people being able to turn the corner. I know Scoot kind of struggled in this game, but, like, that's his game. And you need shooting out there, like... So I would start Krejci over Chris Murray just to have some shooting alongside that lineup if you're not going with the extra creation. And Chris had a great game today, so it's not necessarily a criticism of his game. It's just like, is Chris going to have 16 on 7 for 10 shooting next game? Very likely, no. But to me, for Scoot, it's just like, all right, if Shea and Denny are hurt and he still can't start, when is he ever going to start? Like, if he can't get that opportunity right now, when is he ever going to get it? Chris Murray's barely back from his back strain, and he gets the nod ahead of him. Like, I guess Drew has to get hurt. If Drew gets hurt and everybody else is healthy, does Scoot start, or do they put, if Denny's back, do they put Denny at point and not start Scoot? Just really frustrating to me. Like, I think if, Sharpe's out for a while, we'll see what happens with Denny. But like you said, you need the creation out there. You can stagger guys. Give Scoot a chance to start and just start games like running the offense with some talent around him and let him settle into games. Because he's had some good moments. Today struggled the second half. But the first half was impressive. I just want, him to be able to kind of settle into a game at the start of a game compared to getting subbed in 6 minutes, 7 minutes in and expected to make an immediate spark as an energy guy off the bench. And just to see what that looks like. Because last year it was a small sample, but he played better when he started. So it's just a good opportunity, given the injuries that you have to Denny and Shea. It's a good opportunity, and I think it's the right move to win basketball games to start Scoot. And at this point, it just feels like he's never going to get a shot to start. If Chris was hurt, it would have been City Sissoko.
Feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. So that's frustrating, man.
And they gave up, 33 in the first quarter with the defensive lineup they put out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially, this team starts games slow. And I know today was better in that regard. They got their 10th point with 7:23 remaining because Chris Murray made a 3, right? So, great. Chris Murray gave you a spark at the start of this game. But how many games have we talked about this season where Chris Murray plays 28 minutes and has 3 points, right? If you want to start games slow and you don't have Shea and you don't have Denny, starting Chris Murray over Scoot's the way to go if you want to continue to start games slow offensively. Just because it didn't happen today doesn't mean that it's not going to be an issue. It didn't happen today because Chris Murray was 2 for 3 from 3. It might be his best 3-point shooting game ever in his career. It has 14 points in the first half. That's not replicable. That's not something you should expect. So I don't like that. I don't like that. And like you said, it's not even like the defense was in the first quarter was good with that starting lineup. You gave up 33 points.
Mm-hmm.
And you gave up 34 points in the third quarter. The other two quarters, 29 in the second, 28 in the fourth. So um, you weren't getting off to great defensive starts to the halves. Um, anyway, yeah, it's just frustrating. Because if not now, then when? You got Dame coming back next year. Like, anyway. Let's finish out the starters, then we can talk a little bit more about Scoot. So you got, let's see here. Tamani, 5 for 14 from the field, 11 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, 3 turnovers. I mean, the 5 assists is nice, but he was a minus 12, team worst. This is the type of defense that, like, if he's not making threes, he's going to have a rough offensive game. Like, it's just basically guaranteed against a team like this. I just hate when a guy's 1 for 4 and the type of shooter where, like, he's either hot in a game and knocking down some threes or he's cold. Like, you can kind of tell by halftime what type of game Kamara is going to have shooting the 3-point ball. So I hate when that results in, crunch time, let me shoot a crossover into a contested pull-up 3 in transition when I'm 1 for 4 just so I can be 1 for 5 and miss a shot.
Well, didn't he hit his only 3 at the end? So he was actually 0 for 3 at that point.
Did he hit it at the? Yeah, maybe he did hit it.
I thought he had.
So yeah,
hit
0 for 3,
last.
and then yeah, I don't know. We made a tough 3, and then Jeremy made almost a half court 3. Like, we made a lot of threes at the end to make the score prettier, but make our 3-point percentage prettier. But yeah, I don't know. What'd you think of him today?
I was kind of surprised to see he had 5 assists at the end of the game. Sorry. Because, man, you remember how we were talking about earlier in the season when Shaden would miss Clingan wide open around the basket and take a tough shot? Tamani did that twice in the first half, and it was so frustrating because he wasn't even close on either of the shots, and Clingan was just standing under the basket. All you have to do is lob it to him. It doesn't even have to be a good pass. There was no one around him, and that was frustrating. And then, like you said, he's not a good enough player to have the Jeremy Grant shot selection at times. So, yeah, it's. I mean, I guess he played okay, but like overall, especially once again, I mean, I don't know how many times I've said this season because I think he's played every game, right? He hasn't missed a game, so it feels like whenever we need him to really step up when we don't have guys that are available, he just isn't that guy.
Yeah, he's had better moments as a driver. Had a couple impressive drives in this game. The 5 assists is nice, so it's not like he didn't do anything. But yeah, would have been nice for him to knock down another 3. Marvin Chat says, not a good game to be making case for starting Scoot says, so you want to start Scoot for a guy who's the leading scorer early, not a good game to make the case. My case for starting Scoot is not based off one half. Chris Murray had maybe the best half of his career in the first half today. The fact that it was arguably the best half of his career says something that it's probably not something you can rely on if you're going to start him. So my case for starting Scoot is not just based off of a singular half. I mean, Scoot might have been better in the first half than Chris, and Chris had arguably the best half of his career. Like, so yeah, it's not just, I don't make arguments just based off of a singular half. It's not enough sample size to make a determination of anything. Like a lot of stuff that we talk about today is based on like patterns and issues and stuff that popped up in this game and how that relates to what we've seen all season. So,
but also, I mean, let's not be so narrowly focused that one game makes a case for that. And I know for Torrey's case, he's not making this argument after the fact. It was, I mean, we talked about this last post game, right? If Denny was going to be out a while, we knew Sharpe was probably going to be out a while. We didn't know it was as bad as we found out today, which we need to talk about still. But um, it we talked about Scoot needs to be the guy. Then we need to put take the little training wheels off his bike. We need to just let him go. It'd be one thing if he was still on a minutes restriction or whatever, but they announced he was not. So once you do that, you think long term, this is the best opportunity he's going to get. You mentioned next year there's going to be an extra guard there. Now they might make other moves to make that irrelevant, but as of right now, if you're just looking at it on paper, we need Scoot to take that jump if we're going to make any sort of headway this season. It's not going to be Chris Murray taking a jump at this point of the season to lead us into the play-in. It's going to be because Scoot came back and took a step. And so why limit his opportunity to do that right now with the injury situation on this team? This should be his opportunity to show what he can do with the starters and see if long term that's still a viable option. It might not be, but like what on earth would we? I mean, we still lost the game too, despite Chris Murray having a career night. Like, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to see what you have with Scoot and letting him operate on all cylinders.
Yeah. Marv says you made an example of not making a quick start the Stars in the first half. Today they started fine, but that has been a pattern in starting somebody who averages 5 points per game in 20 some minutes compared to a much more dynamic playmaker, scorer, passer is going to make you more prone to starting slow. I don't care what happened today. I said they started fine today because Chris Murray had kind of an outlier half and helped them not start slow. But if you start Scoot, you might get rough moments from Scoot, but you're much more likely to have stuff happen offensively at the start of games. And he plays with good pace, and a lot of times our pace at the start of games is awful. We have no rhythm to our offense, and we don't get down the floor on offense. We got to just walk down the floor. So, Scoot's better for trying to not start slow offensively. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Also, and this gets lost on so many people's points, and it's the fact that no defense gives a crap if Chris Murray is scoring on them. Whereas if Scoot is in the game and starting, the other team has to change their game plan, and it leaves less attention for the other guys in the starting lineup to potentially have better games as well. And the difference between that may not seem like a lot when you look at who played better tonight, but as a whole, who knows how this game would have played out differently had the Minnesota Timberwolves had to adjust their defense because Scoot was starting instead of being like, okay, we could just focus on not letting Grant get going and not letting Drew get going and stopping running out and Clingan on the 3-point line.
Yeah.
And
you have that pick and roll partner for Clingan beyond just having Drew.
If you have Scoot in there, I mean, Scoot was doing so well on offense at one point in this game, they had to start putting their better defenders on him.
Yeah, Jaden McDaniels guarded him for a good stretch of this game.
And so when that happens, then your other guys can get going. And then maybe Tamani doesn't struggle as much in this game shooting wise and all that kind of stuff. So it's a snowball effect. So and I'd say the same thing about City Sissoko. We had this talk last night. Remember, you asked me about, or not last night, but 2 nights ago, where you asked me about who the 9th rotation guy should be or whatever. Like all those guys, the problem with them is none of them force the defense into having to switch or play a different style of defense. It's more like you can forget about this guy offense or defense that we run, only we forget about actual scorers, and the other defense is justified with forgetting about some of our guys.
Yeah. We'll have the conversation about Scoot's game in a sec. But let's finish off talking about Clingan. So Clingan been playing some great basketball today. Didn't really have as much of an offensive impact. 4 for 7 for the field, 2 for 4 from 3. I will say this. The other thing with starting Scoot over Chris is there's nobody that they can hide the opposing center on. And we've seen Clingan shoot such a good 3-ball lately. He's drawing opposing centers away from the rim. And there were possessions in this game where they put Naz Reid on Clingan and Gobert on Chris Murray. And Gobert, that's the thing, having a 25% three-point shooter out there. I know he was 2 for 3 today, so that's going to go up. But you're allowed to kind of hide put the center and hide the center on him and allow the center to play around the rim and not really respect Chris Murray's jumper. And Chris Murray hasn't been a good enough jump shooter to deserve that respect. So with Clingan shooting such a hot 3-ball, one of the effects from that should be, you're pulling the opposing big away from the rim. And now all of a sudden you have a lot of driving lanes. By starting Chris Murray, you're not getting that effect by playing Chris Murray with Clingan. And also you have one less. He can make a drive here or there, but the start of games should be, Clingan, he shot well at the start of games. He's taken the opposing big out of the paint. He's a legitimate 3-point shooter. Now you have Drew. Now you have Scoot to attack the rim, run the offense, set things up. You don't have a rim protector at the rim. Run that pick and roll with Clingan. It's just a much, much better fit offensively with that unit. Now, this is where I wish, you had instead of having Thibault and Sissoko and Chris Murray as 3 of your 4 guys off the bench and them maybe being duplicative, not great offensive players, that's where it'd be nice if you had a 6-man type or just somebody that can come into the game and get you some buckets instead of 3 kind of energy defensive guys that don't really have ball skills. So that's where some of the depth is a bit duplicative. But if those 3 guys are too duplicative that you're not willing to start Scoot Henderson, that is a failure from the front office. That is a failure from the front office because you're just not doing a good enough job of rounding out your roster with different types of players. Then now you're stuck in a position where it's like, we can't start Scoot even though we need the shot creation in the starting lineup without Shea, without Denny. So now we're not going to start Scoot. We're going to start Chris Murray because we need somebody like Scoot off the bench. We need somebody that can create off the bench. Otherwise, it's Thibault and Sissoko and Chris Murray off the bench with Krejci, who's a shooter, but not really, he can handle the ball a little bit, but he's not super dynamic or anything. So that's just a roster construction issue. And if you're limiting your former 3rd overall pick, you're not starting him because of a roster construction issue with guys that were supposed to be your 9th, 10th, and 11th men, then that's where I got to give some criticism to the front office for not rounding out the depth with different types of players.
Yep, absolutely.
But yeah, Clingan, 5 assists, 16 boards, 11 points. We feel like a completely different team with him in the game on both sides.
Well, especially when we don't have another center. Maybe it's different tonight if Rob plays, but yeah, that's definitely the case when Rob's out because, man.
3 steals, 2 blocks. He played 36 minutes.
And he had a couple of – he didn't get blocks on him, but a couple of plays on Anthony Edwards where he had to take like a high arcing shot to get it over him and missed them when he had made a couple before that. So
I feel like the rim protection's back.
It's
not like it was away.
Yeah,
but
I think it was away.
He wasn't Drew Eubanks, you know what I mean? But he wasn't the presence that we expect him to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Shout out to those of you if you remember the old days of the Drew Eubanks rants. Just 7 shot attempts. He's going up against Gobert, so I'm not expecting him to have a huge offensive game. But it's also I think we need to make Gobert choose between him shooting threes and trying to protect the rim a little bit more in a game like this. When he's in the game, it should be Gobert's stuck between a rock and a hard place. Either you guard a guy who's shooting about 40% from three of the last 10 games, and you guard his threes, or you leave him open. Like, if you guard his threes, all right, now you're not protecting the rim. And if you're Gobert, like, you're supposed to be protecting the rim. If Gobert's at the rim, it should be a Clingan 3. Like, if somebody drives and Gobert's at the rim, it should be a Clingan 3, or maybe, like, Clingan is on the interior and it's a dump off, whatever. But, like, I kind of feel like in a game like this, Clingan should actually have more than 4 3-point attempts. Which might sound crazy, but going up against an elite rim-protecting big that's not the most mobile big man, you should just be making him make a decision throughout this entire game.
And one of those 4 was at the end of a quarter, right?
Yeah, I don't remember.
He shot like a contested one as time ran out, so it was really only 3 actual ones within the offense.
Yeah. So, like, he's a sniper, man. He's a sniper. You were worried about me jinxing him last stream, and he goes 2 for 4 with a grenade.
Okay, one game, dude.
Yeah, well, last time I did it, the effect was immediate. So maybe my power is wearing off. You know what I used my jinx power on today? Jinxing Chris Marine to having a good first half. That's what it was. I can only do so much.
Speaking of grenade or non-grenade, I talk about Scoot. I need to remember to say something.
Oh, that he shot 2 grenades in this game?
No, something else.
Oh, well, the Scoot's our next player, so.
Okay. Why, with the new change of rules, why would you dribble and not shoot a half-court shot?
He's somebody that's shot these the past couple of years.
Yeah.
He made one last year.
He turns the ball over. DiVincenzo, I think it was, went and scores. And then Scoot gets the ball near half court with 0.8. Instead of shooting it, he takes a dribble and lets the time go out.
Well, there was a defender there, so maybe it was
instinctual.
But
those are the type of things, like, you have to know the time on the clock, and now you just got to shoot it. Because
if he had been playing all season, I'd be more frustrated. But, like, it's probably something he forgot about. Like, I don't know. But, like, he's shot those in the past, so that's where it's like when they did count his field goal attempts, he shot those. He shot 8 heaves his first couple of years. He's 1 for 8 with a half court make last year. So, yeah. But I thought you were going somewhere different with that, because Scoot today is 7 for 18. He did have 2 grenades. One, he 30-foot pull up at the end of a quarter, and it's a field goal time, but you're not really expecting Scoot to hit those yet. Hopefully one day he'll hit 30-footers, but and then another, I forget exactly what the shot was, but there's another grenade that he shot. So, the 7 for 18, it's not as efficient as I'd want it. The 1 for 6 from 3, not as efficient as I wanted. He missed a couple layups late. He had 5 assists, 2 turnovers. Like, this was a solid game from him. The first half was definitely better than the second half. He goes 2 for 7 in the second half after starting 5 for 11 in the first half. The first half, though, you know what I really liked was just the way he was using his body. He had a couple... The play where he drove against Naz Reid and just kind of bumped him and then shot that little hook was like, oh, there's Drew's mentorship showing up. That was a Drew Holiday type move. And with how strong he is, it's like, dude, either lose some weight.
A couple plays later.
Yeah, like for me, it's like, okay, if either lose some weight so you're quicker or use that strength. You got so much muscle on that frame. Like, use your body more. And I don't know, like, is Drew stronger than him? Because Drew can move Gobert like he did in this game. Drew just moves guys. So with Scoot, that's kind of like the next level, I think, is using his body to kind of carve out space and finish. Because that's kind of what he needs to figure out. Just didn't like that he struggled to turn the corner there in the second half. But the first half was fun. Like the little fall away runner he hit, the little floater coming off the corner, a couple of dunks he had, one off that backdoor cut. The 1 3 he hit was going left. You know, I used to talk about this all the time. Coming off the screen, they don't respect your shooting, and just being able to go right, left smoothly into that pull up jumper, and how he'd always chop his feet or go left, right, or this or that. Now he's very very smooth with just going left and going straight into his shot. So like that looks good. Just the results aren't all the way there. He did make a very long two. This is the second time recently he's made a very long two. So, you know, get behind the 3-point line. But I feel like there's flashes. There's like you see the flashes of scoring ability. It's just not all the way put together yet. He needs to find a way to be a little bit more efficient. But like you take out those 2 grenades, he was 7 for 16 tonight, right? Like that's okay. And like I said before his injury, I said like I feel like the first 20 games he's gonna try and find his footing, maybe struggle a little bit, but then about 20 games or so into the season, I feel like he'll really take off. And unfortunately, 20 games into his season is going to be like game 72 if hopefully he doesn't miss any more time. So, you know, how much time does he have to take off? But I am still kind of feeling that way, you know, especially coming back from the injury. There's still going to take some time for him to truly find some level of consistency here, but I do like some of the stuff he's showing right now, and just hope he can kind of continue to put it all together.
Yeah, right now the best quality of him coming in the game is just the energy, man. It ratchets it up when he comes in the game, and like to see him continue to try and play off of that, because we just, I don't know, it seems kind of flat at times. I mean, like you mentioned, the start wasn't as bad tonight, but it's been so bad in other games. That's why it might be fun to have some energy right off the bat, to where we're not getting in little lulls and stuff right away. But yeah, like it's just like you can tell the shift in like just kind of energy and stuff when he enters the game. So that's been good to see.
Yeah, I do think it. I do want him to play more with Clingan, man. I think there's a really dangerous pick and roll duo there long term. He had that beautiful oop to Clingan, the one where he got into the mid range and kind of like turned the corner and kind of hesitated, like rose up, kind of like skipped into it, and then went downhill right at Gobert to keep him committed, and then just flicked it over into a lob for Clingan. Like that's just a really, really solid play to get Clingan to stay committed to his drive. And, you know, he kind of took his time to kind of read the situation coming off the screen, still was able to turn the corner. Like just like nuanced play that I like. But then shortly after that, actually this was the next possession, and this is what I talked about, where it's like Gobert should be choosing between Clingan or stopping a drive at the rim. He had that play where he drove left and Rondo faked on Gobert, and Gobert didn't go for it, but he was Scoot came to a 2-foot stop. And then he turned around and Clingan's wide open because Gobert went with Scoot all the way to the rim to try and stop his layup. So this is where I've talked about Scoot needing to just come to a 2-foot stop and play off a 2-foot stop. It's like, all right, you come to a 2-foot stop, you got their 7'2" center on you. All right, where's our 7'2" center that can shoot threes? Oh, he's wide open behind the arc, and Gobert's a mile away from him. And then Scoot kicked it to Clingan, and he made a second three. So that's a good play from Scoot, and I do want to see him run more pick and roll with Clingan and continue to build that chemistry. You're muted if you said anything, but those are my thoughts on Scoot.
Yep. All
right, now the fun stuff, the rest of the lineup. Let's see
There's only
here.
3 more guys.
Thibault came in and had 10 points in 10 minutes. He had a couple threes, had that stretch in the second half where he had that dime to scoot for a dunk and then had a drive and a layup and then hit a 3 off a scoop pass. So like he gave them a spark there in the second half, which was nice.
Yeah, he was fine.
But yeah, the bench was all positive tonight. +3 for Thibault, +5 for Krejci and Scoot, +2 for City. Krejci was 2 for 5 from 3, had 3 boards, 2 assists, 3 for 6 from the field, 8 points. For some reason, for some godforsaken reason, he only plays 15 minutes tonight.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm lost at this point.
Like,
so,
Cronin goes and gets the number 1 shooter on my list, and he's out here playing 15 minutes a game. I mean, Chris Murray played well and plays 29 minutes, but it's like, is Chris really ahead of him in the rotation, dude, on a team that is desperate for shooting?
I know
Sissoko played more minutes than him.
I know. Our shooting ended up being 40%, but it was not. At one point in the first half, it was pretty bad. So
Sissoko played more minutes than him.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Like, give me a break, dude. It's like Chauncey's lineup decisions drove me crazy. I mean, is this Thiago or Patrick St. Andrews? I don't know, but the rotations are driving me crazy again. We're so back. It didn't have the opportunity to drive me crazy because they were missing so many players earlier in the season. But now we're so back. The rotation decisions are driving me freaking insane. I don't understand why Sissoko's playing more than Krejci. I don't understand why Chris Murray's playing double the minutes of Krejci. I just don't get it. You went out and got exactly what you needed, and now Thiago's like, I was praying for a shooter. I was thirsty for some shooting. I guess he wasn't thirsty enough.
And it'd be one thing if it was just like a disaster on the defensive end, but he hasn't really been screwing up or like getting taken advantage of on that end. So you can't even use that excuse, really, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, he's not like a good defender, but like I don't think he's not like hurting the team when he's out there just to have shooting.
I feel like he would function better with better players too. That could just get him some cleaner looks from 3, number 1. Number 2, that can like shift the defense and get him in position to attack closeouts. I think when he's with lineups with like Thibault and Sissoko, and yeah, you have Scoot out there, right? But like the less offensive talent you have on the floor with him, it kind of just ends up being like, okay, there's one guy creating, and you have Krejci is the shooter that they guard, and he has to take some tough threes, and he's really not able to kind of get going. So I don't know. Like he had to shoot some tough threes in this game.
Like we said, every game.
Yeah, like he's not getting as clean of looks as I would like from 3. You know, he's missed a tough one here or there. But like the first one he made was a sidestep going to his right, which is not an easy shot. You know, and he's the caliber shooter. Like, he can shoot a very high percentage even on tough threes. It's just like, man, if you had better offensive lineups, could he get some clean looks from 3? Where he's not having to shoot side steps going to the right? Like, you know, like there's so many possessions where he's just running and has a hand in his face and is like rising and shooting over somebody, which is like his game. But man, it would be nice to get him some cleaner looks from 3. But here's the thing with him having to take tough shots from 3, it's because the defense is respecting his shooting. They're not leaving him.
Running out fast.
There's a reason he's not getting City Sissoko level 3s. So,
and speaking of Sissoko, man, he was okay tonight, I guess. But once again, 4 fouls in 16 minutes.
I'm over it, man. Like Krejci should have played his minutes and Sissoko's minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that last 3, I'm just rewatching. That last 3 Krejci hit was insane. Insanely tough. But yeah, I don't like. That's the thing is, we talk about okay, maybe they're starting Chris because they don't want Chris, Sissoko, and Thibault being too duplicative together off the bench, but then they're playing Krejci less than all three of them. Well, actually not less than Thibault. Thibault only played 10 minutes, but Thibault played good too. So, I don't know. Free Krejci.
Yeah.
Because, what did City do today? In 16 minutes, he shot one shot. What was his one let me look at it. I'm on NBA.com box score. He got a steal and dunked it the other way in the first half. Yeah, it's that steal and fast break the other way. Outside of that, he did not shoot a single shot. He drew a flagrant. Yeah, good drive. Almost got into a fight, Stand up for yourself. But just, he's fine to eat up minutes. But the idea is you have a good enough rotation at some point where you're not just playing guys to eat up minutes. You're playing guys to contribute.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He was okay, but I guess you can say he was positive tonight. But that's technically true.
Something like that. Speaking of positives, what I'm about to talk about is definitely not one of those.
Tankathon or Sharpe?
Oh, we get to do a Tankathon. Do you want to do Tankathon and then we get to talk about the not so positive Shaden Sharpe news?
Yeah. We can wrap up this week.
Yeah, this game took forever. Drug out late too. Yeah, we'll do that. Then we'll talk about Sharpe. Then we'll be done. Then we'll be out of here. You guys will be free to go do whatever you want with the rest of your night. Tankathon. Blazers are now tied for 12th best odds with the Charlotte Hornets. They are only 6 games below 7th best odds. They're only 1.5 games behind 10th best odds. Only 4 games below 9th best odds. I know you missed me, saying this sort of stuff. So, yeah, we're so back. Man, we could have been a game and a half back of Golden State. That would have been cool.
But also 2.5 games away from losing our pick altogether.
Yeah, at this point, just freaking make the playoffs. Get the 8th seed. And then win the 7-8 play-in and be the 7th seed, please. All right, we'll simulate it and see if the 12th spot is lucky. At 14, we have the San Antonio Spurs. At 13, we have the Charlotte Hornets. At 12, we have your Portland Trailblazers. At 11, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder. At 10, we have the Milwaukee Bucks. 9 is Chicago. 8 is Dallas moving down a spot. I don't know who moved up. At 7 is Atlanta. Wow. Atlanta with the 7th pick. They get the best New Orleans and Milwaukee. New Orleans falls 2 spots. Milwaukee doesn't move up. Brutal. Maybe that pick isn't so good after all. At 6, Brooklyn. At 5, Sacramento. At 4 is Indiana. They keep their pick. At 3 is Washington. At 2 is Utah, which means the number 1 overall pick goes to the Memphis Grizzlies.
Sweet.
Peterson with Coward on the wings. Oh my goodness, man. Oh my goodness. Anyway, DeBonsa gets to stay in Utah. And then Washington gets Boozer. For when AD gets hurt. Boozer and Sarr together would be fun too.
Yeah, I think that's a good combo.
That's a good 3-headed monster at the 4 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then Indiana takes Caleb Wilson. I think Boozer in Indiana would be fascinating too. Caleb Wilson is a great fit there, though. And then Sacramento can try to get a star point guard that they keep.
Yeah.
It's quite the concept. Anyway, that's Tankathon. Now.
Yeah, let's talk about another injury situation with the Blazers. Yeah, my favorite topic.
Once again, this is yet another injury situation where the Blazers come out looking questionable. And I'm no doctor, okay? I don't know if I fooled any of you guys. I don't know if any of you thought I was a doctor, but I am actually not a doctor.
Oh?
I'm actually not. Don't come to me for any medical advice. But at some point...
Well, you'll give it, but you're just not a doctor.
Yeah, I'll give it. But don't expect expert medical advice, all right? This is amateur medical advice and opinions here. So despite me not being a doctor, at some point, there's a certain pattern of events with a team's medical staff and the way injuries are handled that makes me have some questions. And the Portland Trail Blazers are the perfect example of that because of how they've handled injuries, especially this season. First, you start off with Scoot Henderson. He gets hurt late September, and they say 4 to 8 weeks before he can return to basketball activities. It was more like 18 or 20, I don't remember. Okay. And whispers are they knew it was much, much worse. Then the 4 to 8 week timeline to return to basketball activities would suggest. Why would they be dishonest about this? I don't know. But that is the word around town. Okay? And then you have Drew Holiday. He goes down mid-November and, it's a calf issue. He's questionable first couple of games. And then, he's out 1 to 2 weeks before he'll be reevaluated with a calf strain. And then he's out 8 weeks. Cool. Let me know if I forget an injury in this saga. But okay, that's 2 where the timetables have been very iffy. And then you have Denny Avdia, who continues to play and then sit and then play and then sit and then play and then sit with a back injury. He played All-Star Weekend, and now he's sitting games again with the same back injury. Grant was hurt earlier in the year. You had Shane Sharpe hurt earlier in the year. At this point, I'm just forgetting details.
Yeah, well, there was remember I told you that Chris Murray left was in a wheelchair, and they knew for sure they'd already ruled him out, and yet listed him questionable for the next game, and then he ended up missing 2 or 3 weeks.
I think it was more than that, wasn't it?
Or more, yeah.
When was the last time Chris Murray played before today? I will look it up because
He
this
played
is
last, did he?
He played last game. Yeah, he played last game. But before returning. Okay, because this is important, right? He was listed as questionable right after he gets hurt. And I think it was like a month and a half. I don't know. It all kind of blurs together.
There was a player that was questionable at first, and then he was out. Then they started listing him out after the first couple games. Then he was just out for a while.
Yeah. You have the Matisse Thybulle thing where Matisse Thybulle injured his hand, and then while rehabbing his hand, somehow started hurting his knee again. And they didn't give us an update until it was basically to the point where, he's continuing to miss time because of his knee. But they were listing it as a thumb before that, and then they finally started listing it as a knee or a leg issue or whatever it was with him.
That caused him to miss all but 4 games last year, too.
Yeah. Chris Murray last played January 5th. So he sat from January 5th to November 20th. So
February 20th.
February 20th, yeah. Mixing up my months. So that's a month and a half. He's at a month and a half. And now we get... Maybe this is one of the worst ones in this stretch. But Shane Sharpe...
He was also listed as questionable the first couple times, right?
Shane Sharpe? Yeah, I think at this point, if a player gets hurt and he's listed as questionable, do not read into it at all. I think that's the one thing we've learned, all right? Don't take that as any hope. But this Shane Sharpe one is especially concerning to me because he goes out with an injury on February 6th. This was 18 days ago. He goes out, calf strain against Memphis. He had a calf strain earlier this year. It was the other leg. So 18 days. Okay. He was listed as questionable first couple of games, and then he's been out. And we kind of expected that. It's a First they listed it as calf soreness, and then they listed it as a calf strain.
Yeah,
like we kind of knew it was going to go that way. It went that way with Drew Holiday as well earlier in the season. But the news today, Eric. Let me pull up the official press release because I just want to read this verbatim.
I couldn't even get myself to read it. I was. Just
You haven't read it yet?
Well, I mean, I heard what it said. I just didn't. I was like, I'm not even going to click on that. I'm so mad.
Yeah. So, man, they've posted a lot of pictures since then. They're trying to bury it. Where is it? I don't even know where it is, man. Let me scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll. Lots of highlights on the Twitter tonight. Okay, this is just a tweet that they tweeted, but essentially they said Trailblazers guard Sharpe continues to receive treatment associated with a left calf strain. Follow-up imaging has revealed a stress reaction of the left fibula. Sharpe will be reevaluated in approximately 4 to 6 weeks to allow for adequate healing before beginning a progressive return to full basketball activity. Immediately, questions are, okay, was this an issue that he had initially that you guys didn't catch right away? Or did he develop this while receiving treatment to his calf strain? Like, on a strained calf, he's not going to be doing a whole lot. Like,
he shouldn't be like running to the point where he could get a stress reaction.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor, but how did this happen? Either way, like, if this happened initially and you didn't catch it for 18 days, obviously major red flag. If it didn't happen initially and somehow happened after he strained his calf, then how the hell did it happen? I don't understand. So, like, maybe there's some sort of medical explanation. This is where I will preface this by saying I am not a doctor, so maybe there is some sort of explanation for this, but these are just the questions that pop into my head because it doesn't really make any sense to me. And this is just another in a long line of injury situations regarding Portland Trail Blazers players where the team makes no sense to me in either the way they report it or the timelines they give or just the injuries themselves in the way players will be rehabbing one thing and then injuring another, and like there's just too many problems and a repetitive pattern of problems for me to just say, oh, I'm just going to believe everything, the medical staff is great, all these problems must have an explanation. I have no idea what, but they must have an explanation because those guys are experts and I'm just a podcaster who's not a doctor. At some point it's just like very eyebrow raising, like, dude, why does this type of stuff keep happening? And this particular situation, when did he get a stress reaction in his left fibula? Like during treatment initially and they didn't catch it until 18 days later? Like, I don't get it.
Well, the only thing I'll say to that is there are injuries, especially stress fractures and stress reactions. You can have swelling, which makes it tough to see them until the swelling goes down, but not 18 days worth of swelling. Like that's insane. So
yeah,
I think there's another question you're not asking, Tori.
What's that?
What if he's had this stress reaction longer than the 18 days and has been playing on it and they just misdiagnosed his calf stuff earlier in the season and he's been playing on it all year?
Well, wasn't it different legs that he strained his calf? The calf strain, wasn't it on a different, his other leg?
I don't remember. But, like, at what point did he start to have issues with his stress? Like, it's possible he could have been playing on it.
Yeah, so this is his left leg. Earlier in the season,
Was it his right one?
I'm trying to get confirmation because I don't remember. When I calf strain, I'm not really thinking about like what leg it's on. It's just one of the calves.
Trevin said he had both earlier in the season. He had one on both, and then
So could this have happened earlier because he was dealing with issues with the other calf? So maybe he was overcompensating because he was trying to work his way back from that. Like, he has lower body issues. Like the calf injuries from earlier in the season, and then this calf injury, which is different from the one that sidelined him early in the season, and then a stress reaction. Like, it just sounds very messy. Like, at this point, I consider him injury prone. Assuming this sidelines him for the rest of the season, he'll have played 60% of games in 3 years. And it's not like it's, one injury taking out 40%. It's
4 years?
No, just in the last 3 years. He played a lot his rookie season, but like the last 3 years, right?
Oh, you're just eliminating it. Okay.
Yeah, and this is, he played at the start of year 2 and then basically sat the rest of year 2, came back, played a little bit, and then sat the rest. Some of that, they were tinking, maybe you could say that's part of it. But so basically the last 2/3 of year 2, year 3, he played a decent amount. And then this year, he sat a lot of time at the start of the season. He was dealing with stuff in training camp, and now he's hurt again. It's that's a lot of time missed for a young guard in 3 seasons.
Yeah, unfortunately. Man. See, stress related injuries, once again, I'm not a doctor, but it would seem like the only way to get those better is resting. And so if he's been playing on it, man, that's crazy.
I don't know. This is the same organization that plays Denny through his back issues, and maybe it's because he, isn't prone to aggravating it worse. It's just a pain tolerance thing. I don't know, but I don't know if they've handled the Denny thing the best, considering he is in and out and in and out and in and out of the lineup. And then the Shea thing, it does raise questions like, was it properly handled?
Well, at least we know he's not playing for a while now, so he can get better. But I think it'd be worse if they kept trying to
Well, he's probably done for the season.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty close.
Are we going to believe this team? They say 4 to 6 weeks before he's reevaluated. Are we going to believe them that he has a chance to come back in week 5? No.
Probably not.
No, so it probably means he's out for 10 weeks, which unless we go on a playoff run somehow. But then we have the conversation, do we bring Dame back since we don't have Sharpe? If we go on a playoff run. Yeah. Jokes aside, yeah, this effectively, to me, ends his season. And I don't trust him to necessarily stay healthy, because even when he did play this year, it was like, oh, he's still hurt by the calf strain. He's not 100%. He's still coming back from that. He's on minutes restriction for a while. And that was the number one excuse people had whenever he made mistakes or struggled was oh, he's not 100%. Well, and I said at the time, Eric, what did I say at the time? I'm like, he's been injured enough where you should maybe expect him to never be at 100%. He has to figure out how to play through this stuff. And look, he's hurt again. So,
he did, like Trevin says, he only missed 4 games prior to this during the season. It seemed like he missed more, but
he only missed 4?
Yeah, before this stretch.
Yeah, it did feel like more.
But also, I really hope this isn't the case. But, you could say the same thing about Scoot so far. He's gotten hurt every year as well. And missed major time.
Yeah, Scoot this year it was the hamstring tear. Last year it was... What was it last year?
Well, I forget if it was last year or his rookie year. The hand, and then...
Yeah, the hand thing, it's not a muscular injury and it's not a foot thing. Hands are kind of fluky to me.
Mm-hmm. Hamstring is a muscular.
Yeah, hamstring is. But yeah, where can I find his injury report? I don't know. Somebody give me his full injury report. But, okay, so he played 62, then 66 games. And then if he plays the rest of the games this year, he'd have played 29. So that's, let's see, 95. 157 games in 3 years.
He got hurt his last year in the G League too.
$157 games in 3 years. Sharpe, it'll be. I think it's very close, actually. If Basketball Reference will tally this for me. Sharpe, it'll be 152. So yeah, pretty even in that regard. I worry more with Sharpe though because it's. What was it?
He had a hip and groin.
Yeah, it's not great with Sharpe. It worries me that he's had calf issues on both calves this year, and like this calf apparently is struggling with earlier in the season. Now he's struggling with it now. Like that worries me. We've talked about how he plays like he doesn't have enough lower body strength, the way he falls on drives and stuff. And he'll have some wicked shin angles on some of his drives where he's taking a massive, negative step or he's very low and leaning forward, so his calves getting stretched out. I almost wonder if some of it's just like his biomechanics when he plays contributing to these calf issues.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you have someone that jumps that crazy, it's probably always going to be a concern.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like it's I don't feel like it's that though.
I'm just saying, like, I mean, one of the pulls with Sharpe is his athleticism, and
but when do you see people tear Achilles? It's when they're taking a step that's far behind themselves, in that Achilles and calf is elongated, right?
I mean, I know there's similar injuries, but I mean, calf strains and now a stress reaction can be different than
it can be, but it's very similar to me. Like you're pulling that calf, you're pulling that Achilles when you're taking that big negative step, or like when you have your foot in your shin at an acute angle, right? So and that's something I've noticed with Sharpe. He gets really low. I think that's part of the reason why he falls. He gets like super low and elongates like. Some of his shin angles just kind of make me cringe almost because it does not seem healthy. So I don't know. Maybe it's due to his jumping ability, but
I mean, I feel like your jumping ability is your calves. So if you're having calf issues, that would seem to be related, right?
Yeah, but I mean, there's been high flyers that haven't had calf issues.
I'm not saying you have to have them. I'm just saying that I think that a player like him, it leads to, especially if he strains one or has an issue, for that not to get better very easily.
Yeah, I just don't know if there's any correlation between like athletic players having calf issues because like of how high they jump. Maybe there is.
I would say
through
that
history.
Yes, but I mean, what was it? Like he had 6 of the highest vertical league dunks. I don't know if it was this season or the last couple seasons or whatever, but like, I mean, he's definitely near the top of players that use that explosion with his verticals. So I'm not saying it happens with every athletic player. I'm just saying he's kind of at the top of that right now.
Yeah. MJ had a calf injury in 1985 to 1986. I don't believe he had one after. Yeah, I just wonder if there's a correlation throughout history. But, I mean, there's a lot of players that suffer calf strains, even those that don't jump particularly high. So, I
Well,
just, I think I think, I just think the shin angle when he drives is not, this is not coming from a doctor, but you always see these people, they're stepping way behind themselves when they tear their Achilles because they just get stretched too much. And I wonder if that also can contribute to straining your calf because you're stressing that out and trying to explode off that.
but also, I mean, despite the jumping ability, we also know that he doesn't have a lot of lower body strength, and I don't know. I'm not gonna call him out and say he doesn't like the weight room or anything, but like, it seems pretty obvious that he's not. Like maybe it's by design to like maybe him and the training staff feel like if he bulks up at all, it'll ruin some of his athleticism. But I mean, we've definitely talked about that all year about how he doesn't have any strength in his legs in terms of like being sturdy and like strong on and balanced and things like that. So um, yeah, it's just I don't know, man. I'm really hoping it's not a thing for him, but I mean, maybe it's just a fluke, another fluke injury, and he'll be fine. That's all we can hope for.
So Twitter was freaking out. We've seen Sharpe's last game as a Blazer. Do you believe that?
No.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either. I do feel like there is a legit chance that one of Scoot, Sharpe, or Drew gets traded this offseason. I don't know in what order. But
Yeah.
and I don't know for what. Like in the past, it's been like, oh, multi-team trade. Drew goes somewhere, please get Jaren Jackson Jr. Or Grizzlies are going to trade Jaw, and they're trading Jaren Jackson Jr. as well. So they want a point guard of a future. They're interested in Scoot. Jaren Jackson Jr. trade package, right? Like those sort of trades. But Jaren Jackson Jr. has been traded. Anthony Davis got traded. Yeah. Like who's the next target like that you could see Scoot or Sharpe get traded for?
I could definitely see them just deciding that getting a more steady player that is a little better. Like, I'm not saying give up a bunch of picks for Trey Murphy, but I could definitely see them like just saying, okay, we know what we have in Trey Murphy. We'll maybe lose a little bit of upside or potential upside. But we're willing to take that risk for the better player now.
And get somebody that's more suited to play the three.
Yeah.
Like maybe naturally he is a three, so
a better shooter.
Yeah, better shooter, athlete. Like he's a good athlete and he's taller. So some of the ways you could use Sharpe off the ball, you can absolutely use Trey Murphy off the ball. But it's just like Sharpe after all these injury issues, and he still has questions about his impact on winning basketball games. Like how much value does he have to New Orleans? Like,
yeah, I wasn't saying he had a ton of value to another team, but I could definitely see. I mean, he's had some good games against some teams, so maybe some GMs would be salivating to get him. But yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
how he's viewed like trade value wise.
I mean, just look at the picks that the Pacers gave up for Zubac, which already were like insane value for Zubac. The fact that the Clippers could have the 5th pick in this year's draft, have almost a 50-50 chance of getting a pick in this year's draft at like 5 or 6 with another unprotected future first. Like the pick value for Zubac, those 2 picks were already like, wow. And then Mather is just thrown on top of the package. Like that's the thing is I feel like it'd be that type of trade for Trey Murphy where we're giving up 2 Bucks picks in Sharpe, and it's like at that point it's Sharpe's not pulling enough of the value there. If you have to give up 2 Bucks picks with Sharpe, it's like you're giving up too much upside. But that kind of feels like what it'd have to take. That feels like the equivalent of the Zubac trade for the Pacers. And then, you go look at Mathurin, like he has 38 points or whatever in his first game as a Clipper. How much value did he have for Indiana trading him to the Clippers in that trade if they also had to give up those assets? I feel like he didn't have a ton of value. And I don't see how Sharpe has more value than Mathurin coming off an injury. And, they have maybe some similar questions as playmakers. And, it's Sharpe's efficiency still below average. Sharpe's defense off the ball has gotten pretty good. On the ball, it's okay, but he's not like a good defensive player. So those types of players don't have enormous value. That's why I don't think Sharpe will get traded. Because I just don't think he's going to have enough value to other teams in a trade for the Blazers to justify moving him. Like if the Pelicans want $2 picks for Trey Murphy, and we really want Trey Murphy, it just makes sense to find a way to bridge the gap salary-wise without giving up Sharpe's upside.
Yeah. Agreed. Would have been easier to do at the deadline.
Yeah. But maybe we planted some seeds.
Maybe.
And now we just have to make sure Sharpe doesn't have a worse injury than this. So maybe he's not actually hurt. Maybe we're just resting him for the rest of the season so we can trade him for Trey Murphy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I sound like chat sometimes with the couple of people in chat that love to go off the rails with the conspiracies about fake injuries. But, yeah, it's a bummer. It's a bummer for Sharpe. Blazers have a lot of questions to answer this offseason. They have a ton of questions to answer this offseason, like more so than any offseason previously. You got Dame coming back. How much are you going to accelerate the timeline? Who knows if we have a pick or not? Are you that serious about trying to take a jump next year? The 4 guards. Do you really go into next year with those 4 guards, or do you try and move one? The ownership situation. Do we have a new front office for this offseason that has a completely different vision? Does Dundon come in and like, I want to make a splash right away, Joe. If you want to keep your job, you better go into super duper win now mode, like you talked about doing years ago. Like this offseason is going to be quite fascinating to watch. You have Denny and All-Star now. That maybe changes the calculation a little bit compared to like last season where you didn't know if you could reach the level he reached this season. So. Yeah, the offseason is about to be fascinating in that regard. And if we do have a pick, I mean, this is a loaded freaking draft. So, it's a loaded draft.
Get another Young Hans.
Yeah, who's the Young Hansen this year? That's the real question. I don't know. But anyway.
Well, Thursday we play the Bulls, and they've lost 10 in a row. So,
we better beat the freaking Bulls, man. Like, this team, the way they played tonight, could beat a lot of teams they are facing coming up. You got a road trip, but you got the Bulls, then the Hornets, the Hawks, the Grizzlies, the Rockets. 3-2 bare minimum on this road trip. If they go worse than that, it's a failure of a road trip. They have no back-to-backs. They have a stretch where they have 2 nights of rest in a row.
They do have a back-to-back.
Oh, yeah, because the 28th of February, and then, yeah, you're right. Just looking at 28th and the 1st and not thinking about enough about it. But, yeah, so you do got a back-to-back, but, I mean, beat the Bulls, beat the Grizzlies, win one of the other 3 games. That's the bare minimum expectation here. And then you come home to play the Pacers, Hornets, and Jazz. Like, if they're not 6-3 and back at 500 over the next 9 games, I'm disappointed, even with the injuries. That should absolutely be the goal. We should come out of there 34-34 with a month left to go in the season.
Yep, hopefully.
Yep.
And I'm not sure, but that show, just to warn everyone, might go a little later on Thursday.
Yep, we're busy people on Thursday evening, so.
This is my last Thursday of coaching, so.
Well, I think this is the second to last Thursday game of the season.
Yeah.
And Tuesday and Thursday I'm busy, but there's only 3 more games that are Tuesday or Thursday, including the Bulls one. for the rest of the year. So schedule should be relatively normal. But yeah, we'll probably go live a little bit late with that one.
Gregory says 2-3 could happen on this trip. Yeah, no kidding, it could happen.
0-5 could happen if we really tried.
Tori is saying he expects them to go 3-2, not that he doesn't think they'll be 2-3 or there's a chance they won't.
I'm setting the standard. Anyway, appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit the like button on the way out of here. Subscribe if you're new. Join the Discord if you haven't already. That's where we're doing picks against the spread this year. If you've been wondering where that is, make sure to join the Discord. There's a link in the description box below. We're getting close to 1,000 members. Once we get to 1,000 members, we can do some cool stuff, or some stuff gets unlocked. I don't even know what yet, but I want to find out, so you can help me find out by joining the Discord. Shout out to Sleeper. Use promo code Uprise. You'll receive a 100% deposit match up to $100 and a free $20 entry. So if you want to get in on the action with Sleeper, make sure you use that promo code. It helps out the channel. And with that being said, we are out of here. Hopefully you have a good rest of your night. Would have been really awesome if the Blazers won this game. There would have been one game below 500, 1.5 games back behind Golden State, but they still have time. But at some point they got to start winning games. They have an easy schedule the rest of the way. Easiest schedule in the league. Their schedule is insanely easy the rest of the way. But that only matters if you actually take care of business against the teams that you're supposed to. So we'll see if they're able to do that coming up with the first game against the Bulls, losers of 10 in a row. Have a good rest of your Tuesday night. We'll catch you again on Thursday. Stream might be a little bit late, but hopefully we can see you there. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers!